thing at this moment because I'm really excited. Welcome everybody to our Thursday book celebration. Tonight we have Felicia Mitchell. I am super excited to have her here because this is a book that I really want to hear the poems from. Trail Magic. I could use a little bit of magic. It came out from Wising Up Press. Felicia Mitchell, if you don't already know her, is a poet and writer who resides in rural southwestern Virginia, Southwest Virginia. She's lived here in that area since 1987 and calls this place home. The great thing about Felicia, if you're looking for someone that can do workshops, readings, she travels and then also is available on Zoom. And one of the things that I love is her previous book talking about Alzheimer's. And she does this beautiful Gingko walks for haiku and for workshops helping family members to compose stories of their loved ones who can no longer tell their own stories. So she has a deep place in my heart for many reasons, that being one of them. She goes to nursing homes and does readings and workshops, and I just think that's so important and valuable. Felicia, welcome. Thank you so much for coming here, and we are so excited to celebrate with you.
Thank you. And the last time I was with you, I read from A Mother Speaks, A Daughter Listens. And I have to say, after I wrote that book, I thought I don't have to write anymore because that was my life's work, really, to do that. It's interesting. I see my stuff in the background. So anyway, so I'm glad that I wrote this book, which is based in hikes and walks that I've taken and will continue to take as long as I can. That's one part. So here's the transition between what I call Mama's book and this book. Because I was spending, well, as you know, when you're caregiving, you spend all your free time with the person who needs you. And one Saturday morning, I headed to Grace Healthcare in Abingdon, and I ended up at Linville Gorge in North Carolina. And it wasn't because I got lost. I think something in my brain said, you need a little bit of balance. And the one thing that might be able to compete with what's going on with you mentally, I'm talking to my, is, the earth. And so I started to find more time to do that. And I found I could walk and take care of Mama and do everything else. And it kept me literally grounded, mentally and physically. So that first walk, and then I took many more. And once you start walking and hiking, people start talking to you and inviting you to hike with them. And then you end up joining a club. And so now I volunteer with the Mount Rogers Appalachian Trail Club and love that camaraderie. I still do some solo hikes because that's something I like to do. But as I age, not, in places that are far away and that I shouldn't go by myself. Anyway, even though I have all the things in case something ever comes up. But this first poem, well, the book is, I'm going to read 5 poems. And then there's another one you want me to read if we have time when I'm done. If you have a question about hiking and I have an answer to you that's in a poem, that would be lovely. I love for people to ask me questions. But what I do is I have a section of poems close to home, and then I move to poems from the Creeper Trail. If some of you have been up here, we have a national rail to trail location called the Virginia Creeper Trail, then the Appalachian Trail, then miscellaneous nearby trails because there's so many, and then finally on the last section, places that are much farther afield. And so the first poem I'm going to read, because it was inspired by a hike with a group of women I hike with on a second Sunday. We call ourselves Second Sunday Ramblers. But this is from our first hike to the newly developed, now it's not so new, Salt Trail. Wild grapes near Saltville. Sometimes I have to pick the grapes growing on a train trestle near Saltville, across from the Superfund site, and I have to eat them too, as if they are all there is to eat. And maybe they are all there is to eat on a Sunday afternoon in summer. So many birds removed in time from soldiers who dug salt nearby for the war, that war. And even more birds and deer removed in time from woolly mammoths that roamed here, right here, where I can pick grapes and eat them too, grape by grape, as I watch a turkey fly across the fence and land there where grass grows, where once so many chemicals spilled that fear fell off our trees like acorns. The people whose land this was before us, before the factory workers, the farmers, the soldiers with bayonets would have picked the grapes and eaten them without thinking about toxic chemicals or how I would one day be here too, picking grapes as if there is no tomorrow and thinking there might be no tomorrow. These people would have eaten the grapes. So since I wrote that poem, I've learned a whole lot about the early times of Saltville, the paleo times and the times of the Spanish conquistadors and the early indigenous people, but don't get me started because I'll just talk forever. It's one of my favorite topics. So, oh, and if you want to interrupt me and ask a question between poems, that's fine too. I guess Malika will be able to see oh, I can see you now. I had to click on the okay. Um, okay. So, the next poem, that I'm going to read is, it's, from a place, well, it's from the Virginia Creeper Trail. It's from a hike I took by myself, over there. And it is called Lesson Big Laurel Creek. If there are steps leading to the creek, take them one by one until you stand right next to the water. Even if the beavers have already built, you could pretend this could be your home, this stretch of land between woods and water. I would put my house on the rock in the middle. I would make it out of fallen limbs and river glass, with curtains made of scarves hikers have lost. Beavers would be my neighbors, and bears and bobcats too would drink the same water that I drink and bathe and swim in. In the spring, when laurels bloom, I would pull blossoms and stick them in my roof the way I used to stick them in my hair. In summer, I would bask in the sun on the rock until the sun set over the mountain and everybody wondered where I had gone. By fall, I'd probably get lonely from my other house, the one on the other side of the mountain with a fireplace and running water and a bed. I could walk there from here, back up the steps, come winter, if I knew my key would still work and my cat would still remember me. So that makes me want to show the cover of the book. A former student who is now a college professor in Knoxville, Bridget McCrae, is also an artist. And I love this picture. Is it makes me feel how I feel when I'm out there in a place like Laurel Creek. What I did that day is I left the trail and I kind of got on a rock in the creek, and which was that was the inspiration for that poem. Any questions? No, y'all are saving some up though, right? You are. You're nodding your head. So
Yeah.
write them down. So, um, hmm. So I think I want to read. this next poem is, oh gosh. I wrote it down and then I lost it. I thought I'd read another poem, from from yonder. Anyway, this one, so some years back, so I told you I started hiking when I was caring in earnest, taking care of my mother and needing a balance. And then some years back, many years back, I had cancer. And one of the things that I wrote in my journal that I kept when I went to the cancer center for treatment was, and I wrote, I asked Dr. Davis, is hiking okay? And he wrote, and he said, yes, hiking is good. And so anyway, I hiked a lot then as well. And this is a poem I wrote out of that experience. And for those of you who know, and within breast cancer culture, their tattoos are kind of a thing. I didn't get any. Anyway, this is called The Tattoo I Did Not Get. Bloodroot sends up leaves, angel wings on earthen flesh. A flower comes next. My right breast hollow is the opposite of spring. It has bloomed and gone. I look for flowers that grow on the sides of trails, my path a journey. My left breast like sun, flesh flushing as winter wanes, its nipple blossoms. Where the sun falls first, a bloodroot will bloom early, its leaves a blessing. I do not need ink to replace what cancer took, no nipple tattoo. A scar is plenty, its track like a bird scratching for something hidden. A bloodroot roots deep, even deeper than earthworms. I kneel over it. So the lesson in that poem is that its stanzas are crafted out of haiku. I love playing with haiku. So that's what that came from. That. Questions? No? Okay. The next poem is from North Carolina. And I wrote around the time of my birthday last year. So, well, I don't know if I should read well, it's not really a sad poem. Maybe I should read a happier poem. Should we have well, anyway, it's not a sad poem, but I think what you're seeing in the poems that I've decided to read tonight are how I take signs and symbolism to kind of help me with to make sense of things in my life. And so this poem, actually, Malika was on the way to see Terry, and she wanted me to come on my birthday, which I celebrate for 2 days because I had a traumatic birth and it took me 2 days to get born. So I celebrate both days. And because why not? Because I think I wanted to be born one day, but so it's sort of fun to have 2 days. So I said, well, I'll come on the first of my birthday so I can be home and celebrate with my other friends here the next day. But I'm going to stop at Pilot Mountain on the way to your house because I want to go. So I was turning 68 last year, and I said, I need to go someplace I've never been before. I'm not getting younger. I need to expand my horizons. And this year I went to Scotland, but last year I went to Pilot Mountain. And that was very special. So this is about that stop on the way to Terry's. Morning Cloak is at Pilot Mountain. The serape draped across my chair back home shares the colors of this butterfly on this path where I will stand for a few minutes watching it before I take the time to identify it by its name. Nymphalis antiopa, morning cloak. A harbinger of spring and morning colors, is certainly not out of place on this February day. A solitary hike, the way I have chosen to mourn my first love, my soulmate, a man who called me just before today from far away to say farewell before journeying to another place. I will not join him, at least not in my own lifetime, not on this earth. What can rival a lifetime of loving someone? I wanted to come to a trail I had never hiked, to do something I had never done before. And here I am seeing something I never saw, a butterfly that makes me say, aha. Later, when I look at the serape he wore and then gave to me, something I kept close for 50 years, even as he was far away or farther, I will see color shape shifting into a butterfly. And if I drape the serape across my shoulders, remembering the one who gave it to me, I will perhaps feel as if I am lifting my wings like a morning butterfly or aging earth angel to join my wandering man of a soulmate, wherever he is gone this time, this last time. So, poems are poems, and you can write about lost love and enduring love, but in truth, he and I have had wonderful lives. Your first love is someone you know when you're very young. He had wonderful children. He had the most amazing partner in the whole entire world that taught me something about love, the love the two of them have. But still, I could write my little poem about all that. Um, in Pilot Mountain. Um, so the last poem, I think I'll read you all, unless I read a really short one, but I might read another if you ask me a good question. So when you hike, as you could tell with the poem about Saltville, you sort of need to be mindful, and I probably could be even more mindful of some of the places that I hike, but mindful of the people who were there before us and what I guess privilege we have to be able to, well, it's not even privilege. I think we just need to be mindful of the people who came before us, all kinds of people, the very early indigenous people and other people who walked in the places before we walked there. And this is from a trip. Sometimes I go down to South Carolina and which is where I'm from and grew up. I grew up in North Carolina and South Carolina. And this poem is from a visit to a place called Brook Green Gardens, which is an old plantation, which I for years wouldn't go to because I was pretty ambivalent about visiting such a place. But it has trails and wildlife and hawks and art anyway. So I've gone some in my old age. And so this is a poem I wrote one day when I actually sat down and had some iced tea somewhere, and I didn't even drink iced tea. But anyway, beyond the garden wall, who's been to Brook Green Gardens? Raise your hand. Okay, so just past the old brick kitchen, around the corner from a statue, a golden statue of Dionysus, lie two fallow rice fields, fields where blackbirds sing, along with the ghost of workers, sodden with mud, afraid of malaria, women who work dawn to dusk to plant and harvest rice. And there are replicas of rice trunks to show how flooding was manipulated to make a golden rice grow, as if Senegal was not a continent away. You are supposed to stay on this trail that meanders past antebellum history, alongside a creek with alligators and great blue herons that eat fish without minding that you are there. Sometimes a wood pewee sings too, or a crow or a hawk looking for prey. There are too many voices on this trail for your mind to settle into the quietude of the contemplative. Thoughts can nag more than mosquitoes. They can make you fantasize about this trail just beyond a garden wall, and it might as well be a border between slavery and what looked like freedom. A freedom full of copperheads and alligators and malaria and an overseer with a long gun. On a sunny day in early May, just after you drink a glass of iced tea, it is far too easy to traverse this history. The hard part is not the heat. The hard part is how easy it is for you, a tourist, to put one sandaled foot in front of the other and just go anywhere she wants to go. So there's that poem. So those are my 5 poems that I was going to read, and I have time maybe for another, but that would be an answer to a question, or maybe Malika
Yeah, I was
has a
gonna say, read another poem. I would love that. And then I know we have questions and
yeah.
I've got some. So if you would I would love to hear this other
Well,
poem.
oh, which other? Oh, well, ask. Yeah, I
Can I
was thinking.
ask a running question? Because I was
Yeah.
curious. I love the fact, and this is kind of how your writing is oftentimes, where you gather in so much information, and I love how you freely share it.
Mhm.
But it's funny, in some of the poems, I felt like a mind quieting down. In other poems, I felt like a mind expanding out. And
Yeah.
I started to wonder, do you have different places that you run that bring out different aspects,
Oh,
or is it
well, you
about
know,
what you
it's
bring to the
about.
run?
Well, actually, I only run like once a year for 5 minutes. I mostly just walk, but I walk. My son is a runner, and I think the last poem that I will read is sort of answers your question. I said I'd pick a poem that answers. So
Mm,
how do I get inspired from where I guess the place tells me what to write about, and then I do seek the solitude and the contemplative life and all of that, but I also am a visual person. But so I write a lot about the imagery of nature. But the thing that really intrigues me the most about this book, and it taught me something psychologically, which is I can be extroverted, but I'm pretty much alone. I'm often a loner, although I do have friends and love people. But I am a lot of my poems are sort of about me, but these poems I have people in them more than any book. Mama's book, of course, had people, but there's just people throughout. So I think it's interesting that I have become, I guess, being out on a trail, I'm learning to be around has helped me to be around people because I'm not afraid on the trail. When I was younger, I had some things that happened that made me a little strange, but always feel safe out in the wood. And now Mr. Fluff is meowing. So I'm gonna read has some humor, so this is a good one. Mr. Fluff might jump up. Anyway, it's so my son lives in Boulder, Colorado, and he's a great inspiration. He just is. So flat irons. And that's the mount sort of, if you've been to Boulder, it's sort of surrounded by these beautiful little mountains that you just take off and hike in anytime. Each time I hike the flat irons, I meet a new challenge. Sometimes my son assign, wait, I'm gonna start over. I got confused. Each time I hike the Flatirons, I meet a new challenge. Sometimes one my son assigns, sometimes one that arrives like an epiphany as I meander up and decide to try something new. Something like scrambling across rocks as far as I can scramble safely. Such a meager achievement in the big picture of Boulder scene, and yet a huge success for me. Last time on a new trail, I got lost. The rocks I rested on another planet. Every direction I looked, it all looked like the same gray matter. I could have used my phone. I could have panicked and called my son. But one thing I learned early on is to leave early enough on a hike to have time to find yourself before dark. I also depend on voices I hear. This time, the voice of a young mother carrying her toddler who paused with me when I called out to her on her ascent, opposite to my stalled descent. She mothered me with a band-aid for my ankle, scraped while walking in circles, and pointed me in the right direction before I ambled on down my rocky way, waving farewell to her and her little boy. So, in Boulder, it's like they start hiking when they're, 3 months old. But yeah, so anyway, but
That is gorgeous.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicia. Oh my gosh. And I know people have questions. So if you want to unmute and just take a moment to say thank you for that gorgeous reading and all the images, and also love the epiphanies. And I love what you say in between things as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's when so I'm out there just waiting to see what comes. Yeah.
Well, the contemplative part of you and kind of this gentle listening and leaning into the moment is very much a part of these poems. So I did want to talk about like the form of haiku. Was that something you were always, yes, it's a lovely reading. Is that something that you were always interested in? Because I don't remember it in Mama's book.
No,
Um,
it's no, well, so I wrote a poem, one of my first published poems in junior high was a very bad haiku. But then at Emory and Henry, um, when I was on sabbatical, fortunately, part of my cancer treatment, and I decided, and I had to create a new course. And I thought, I'm going to do the haiku tradition because in nature and did this sort of ecology based where the students would do field work to learn how nature informs imagery. Because, so often when you study poetry, it's like you read the poem and you don't know what a petunia is or the symbolism of the flowers or the nature or the setting. So I wanted them to see how poems grow out of the earth. And the haiku was small. And I could drive them nuts by talking about one classic haiku for like 50 minutes and they still wouldn't understand. But so I taught a course in the haiku tradition early on across the world, but then only in Japan because it became a course that counted for international credit. So yeah, so I learned a lot about haiku teaching the haiku and yeah, and
yeah, the earth.
I do, yeah.
And that doesn't surprise me because it also is always obvious to me that you are a natural born educator and it is your immediate thought to kind of include us in on new knowledge. And I
Oh, that's
adore
probably
that
how I
about you.
teach
I
you how
adore
to,
that about
yeah.
you.
Well, yeah, and one thing about teaching in a small school was we got to create new courses, and we had back in the day, maybe still such academic freedom, and I never wanted to teach the same thing over and over. Even the old courses, I would reinvent. So, but the haiku is complex. And the older I get, I wonder if that's all I'll write one day and nothing else. But not
Well,
quite
I
yet.
mean, the one that you shared with us was just, gorgeous and compelling. Do people have specific questions for Felicia about process, about this book? And, as she said in the beginning, it kind of surprised her because the prior book that we got to celebrate here was such an intense journey, emotionally, powerful. And I can imagine that when it was published, you probably did feel like, that's what I'm
That's
done.
what, and it well, and it was. I had worked on that book for a long, long time. The last book, trying to get just the right note, notes, the right, and I thought maybe of all the books I've written, maybe it would help people the most, more than, and although do hope to help people understand the role of the natural world in ordinary everyday life too. I mean, that's something I'm committed to.
It's
Yeah.
so important these days, I think, as our planet is sort of in trouble, with everything going on and no one taking care of it. I think about the Bible and being stewards of the earth, and
Yeah.
it's very sad that every other day there's a hurricane somewhere. And we know why. And so I think it's an important thing to get
Yeah.
out echo poetry and talk about this.
Well, and I love dovetailing on that, Cindy, the way that Felicia also brings in, kind of abuse and oppression of one thing is it's all tied in together. Whose footprints were here before mine. This is something that, Felicia, the speaker, and Felicia, thinks about and brings to our awareness. And then that one line from the poem, as if she could walk anywhere, the awareness that some people aren't free to walk everywhere and anywhere. I think that's powerful and important work to be speaking, even more so at this time. So thank you, Cindy. That's an important thing to bring up.
Felicia, I have a process question.
Okay.
Being the non-poet in the group here.
Yeah.
When you're out hiking, are you taking photos? Are you taking notes? Does all of this just come when you get back to your desk and you're processing then?
A little
How do
a little
you?
bit of both. Yeah. So I have written some poems out in the field. I'll pull out my phone and it looks like I'm texting, although I have a poem in here called Texting While Hiking, but I will, or once I remember I felt blocked, and so I went out with a pad of paper and I said, "You're not going home till you write." And so I would walk and I'd sit on a rock and I'd write. And I think I got one good poem out of that. But I'm as I say, kind of visual and also emotional. And so I'll bring back the feeling of something, but also photos. I take a lot of photos. And there's a poem in here about a millipede. Oh, that's my son. I'll text him. I have it on silent, but because he's my emergency contact, it always rings. That's
That was
not
so
sweet. Anyway, so it's a combination, but sometimes poems just flit away if I don't like ground them. But yeah. The
that image of poems flitting away if I don't ground them. I so relate to that. And Patricia, thank you for that question.
Does that help a little bit? Yeah. It's but I also revise, every now and then a poem is
That,
just
it would vary
I
person to
revise a
person.
lot.
It was nice to hear the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm listening.
I
I'm just
checked the chat section to see if I had missed any questions, and I don't see any. So if you did write one in there and I'm missing it, please jump in and feel free to ask Felicia the question. Okay. Well, I feel like that we're at a point of naturally evolving towards open mic. So if we could just take a moment to say thank you, Felicia. Gorgeous reading.
thank
It
you.
made me feel like getting outside. I love that.
Get outside, and
Was
some of these are just walking down the street from my house, and then I go farther and farther afield. And a few of the poems are about art, where I'm sort of projecting myself into, say, an Ansel Adams or another piece. So, yeah, so you can find nature all over. Yeah.
Hoping that you got to be surprised and reminded there's so much more that you are inspired to say.
Well,
And that's good for us.
I'm working on one now. I won't talk about it so much, but I thought I was done, and I would just write haiku the rest of. But I'm working pretty intensely on a project. So yeah, and see how that goes.
Sneak peek.
Sneak peek, nah, no sneak
Okay,
peek.
just checking. Yeah, but I'm curious, not haikus. I'm assuming just from the way
No,
you
not
said that.
haiku, no, just my regular poems. Yeah.
Okay, love it. Well, we look forward to celebrating again then. I will turn to open mic. John, you are our first reader.
I just want to say Felicia, because I always wait until before I read to say compliments. Um, I loved your poems. They're so soothing, but also I love your voice and the way you read, and you're so laid back. And your voice is so therapeutic. Like I'm crazy as a loony bin, but like listening to you, I could just listen to you and just relax and be like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. So I
Oh,
just want you to know that.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I don't mean it weirdly either.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to say something about my poem before I read it. So me and my husband have been together for 6 years. We have the darkest sense of humor, and so we've talked about what we're gonna get if we get a divorce. We've had these conversations, and I go crazy, and I say stupid things, but I have mental health, and sometimes I can't help it. So the ending is something I've actually said before. So here's the poem. For me, it's my humorous side, but it's also could be a very sad poem. My ears ring from the thunder. Anxiety grows like a cloud and expands, disconnecting the ceiling from the frame. The wind knocks the door from its hinges. Heavy rainfall occupies the room, destroys the walls. I sign the divorce papers. You take the dogs, give me the cats. You take the house, I grab the keys to the car. You acquire the bills. I pull from the driveway on 2 bad tires and 10,000 miles overdue for an oil change. My therapist said, you live 2 different lives. The intersection never opened after it shut down for road work. The orange cones kept getting in the way, made U-turns normal. Delays made things change. My cats fight in the back seat. They learn from what they're taught. I hear one yell, I can't wait until the Supreme Court dissolves our marriage, so it'll be easier for me to leave. The other is left grasping. And that's that poem.
Damn. There was so much that I just adored about that poem. Check the chat
Well,
section.
thank you.
Very powerful. I mean, oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh. You live 2 different lives, made U-turns normal. I need a t-shirt.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Cal, I have you next. Make sure you unmute.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to read the very first poem that I wrote after 35 years of a business career in which I did not write anything except business letters. And it was the first thing I did. And it's my most popular poem. It's won more awards than anything else. And so anyway, here it is. It's called Physics. I'm still frustrated by gravity, things falling down, but I'm okay with entropy now. And I'm okay with the arrow of time. If the arrow suddenly switched and it all headed crunchward, galaxies, the universe, etc., and the shattered glass really did jump back from the floor, up on the counter, whole, I'd be perplexed, liking the one change, but maybe not the other. You can't have everything your way. Thank you.
Fabulous. And we understand why that one has stood the test of time. Yeah, I'd be perplexed. I love that one as well. Thank you, Cal. Laura, I have you next.
Well, hello. Okay, this poem's fresh ink. May have to rewrite it a few times, but I'll throw it out anyway. This is called Back to the Moon Again. Turn your face to the sun again. Words fall like leaves, and there's the smell of snow in the distance. Phrases pass by, escape me. They're like the imprint of your thumbs in the cold sand before the tide sweeps them away, or the fleeting taste of the last of the summer's pears, or maybe just the rays of the sun that make possible tonight's waning gibbous moon. Thank you.
I love that. Words fall like leaves.
Mm.
That feels like an end of summer poem and
love
has that sense of, yeah, it's gorgeous. Thank you, Laura.
I love that.
Christy, I have you next.
Can
Make
everybody
sure
hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I was having technical issues. This might be the shortest poem I have ever written. It's called Intangible. Don't let sleeping doubt swallow your eyelids. You cannot birth what is denied in the blink of waking. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow, Chrissy, you just stalled me out. I need extra coffee. I love that. And that is, I don't think, yeah, that's a very short poem for you.
She said so much in
Yeah,
just a
and
few
also I
lines.
have to say, like, if I had seen that unattached to a person, I would not have immediately said that's a Christie poem. That's fascinating. You're throwing my theory out of whack there, Christy, but keep at it. I love that. Bob, I have you next.
Okay, and this is a short one. Education. The difference between the farm and the shipyard, between the centipede and the gopher, between the kite and the diving bell.
Ooh. Okay, you guys are getting like, and Bob, I expect this out of you. Fabulous. Thank you.
Thank
Powerful. But back to back, you two just, yeah, if we ever do a dual reading, I'm putting those poems together. I'm going to challenge y'all to write more of them. Wow. Regina, I have you next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Felicia. I loved your reading. It was just wonderful. It made me think about my indigenous roots, and I started to pull out one of those poems, and then I said, no, I'm gonna go with this.
Well, thank you.
This this poem is actually a poem that was written in response to hearing that Dean Cain of Lois and Clark, Superman, was going to join ICE. And so I wrote it and it New Verse News took it, and so it's been published in New Verse News. It's entitled Real Superman and Never Means Not Ever. Superman would never pledge allegiance to Lex Luthor, beat down the tamale lady, snatch a child from a loving mother, snatch a loving mother from the grasp of a terrified child, cage them, strip them from each other, pull them from the light of hope. Superman would never dump Mr. Terrific from his chair, keep him from accessing his reasonable accommodations, cancel his yearly checkup, lie about his color, his culture, his merit, leave them hungry, emaciated as prey for predators. Superman would never set fire to non-perishable food, soak the ashes in a blood-soaked ground, willingly hand his red cloak to the enemy that they might cover the eyes of the innocents and steal their liberty. Superman would never forget the golden rule, shut down opportunities, enlist the fools to join a league of injustice that they might overtake the land. Superman would save the alligators from the monsters that built shoddy cages and dangled distraught meat from unclean hands. Superman would never forget where he came from, Forget who helped him and loved him along the way. Forget that we all have a part to play, a part that bends towards justice, redefines the American way, a way that ushers in a prosperity that ensure we all stay free and more and even more. Unnecessary, too tall buildings and death waters be damned.
I can't even unmute myself. I was stunned. Hells yeah. And I don't know if you see everybody clapping, but I hope you feel that energy in response. I love how you say so beautifully what is so deeply felt by so many. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just thank you. Wish you didn't have to write them though.
Yeah.
Shama.
Hi, sorry, I was
There you
having
go.
trouble unmuting on the phone. Okay, I'm going to read a short poem that is also about the time, I guess. Although I wrote it a while ago, but it's still on point. It's called Visiting the Hairdresser, after the style of Hafiz. Being happy can be dangerous. People say Shamla is crazy because I'm happiest walking in the rain. I say, come, walk with me. They say, no, too busy. Important things to do. Stock market falling, savings vanishing, serious times. A man said, an incarnation of the friend, consider the lilies of the valley. Walk in the rain with me and consider. Let the friend wash our hair, take away the pain inside our heads. That's it for me.
Beautiful.
And this has been a lovely
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
Don't want you to miss this, Shamala. Regina just wrote, Shamala is crazy in the bestest ways. Yeah. No.
I love you all
Yep.
too.
Oh, it's true. Being happy can be dangerous, and we're love you. Cindy and then Patricia.
Okay. I don't have any poems about hiking, but I have 3 haiku. And it wasn't what I intended to read, obviously. I tailor my open mic readings to match the theme of the evening. So the interesting part of these haiku is that I wrote them in my 20s. They were contained in my very first chapbook, Wednesday's Child, which you see how old it is, about 40 years. And this is kind of how I wrote when I was in my 20s, because we all write like this, sort of pure, more pure than now. Little, and they're all 575, because back then you couldn't, do a haiku, without conforming to that. Little pond, small child, feeding the lazy ducklings on innocent thoughts. 2. Carrier pigeon, like faithful winged lovers fly, words come back to me. 3. Beyond tombed terror, happiness is housed in hope, cradles of comfort.
But in that early poem, there's that assonance and consonance, the words calling to each other. That is classic Cindy. Thank you. That is awesome. Yep. Happiness is housed in hope.
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Our last reader is Patricia. And I'm so glad you agreed to read something.
Well, I'm intimidated because I am no poet, but this book, Step Into the Circle, was published by or edited by Amy Green, the novelist, Amy Green, and she asked us to write about various Appalachian writers. So this is a poet, Georgella Lyon. Maybe most of you have heard of her or know of her work. And so this is the opening of the essay that I contributed. On a sweltering summer evening in 1983, Georgella Lyon stood up to read her poetry at the Appalachian Writers Workshop at the Heinemann Settlement School in eastern Kentucky. The youngest member of the workshop's faculty, Georgella had just published her first poetry chapbook titled Mountain. The buildings at the settlement school weren't air-conditioned, and the day had been so steamy that the podium had been pulled outside and set up on the front porch. Cicadas thrummed in the trees as the audience arranged folding chairs in ragged rows on the driveway, fanning themselves and praying for a breeze. I was a 20-something journalist, an Appalachian native attending my first literary workshop. I'd found a place to sit at the edge of the crowd, feeling out of place, unsure what to expect. All I knew about Georgella was that she was a poet and that she looked to be about my age. Up to that point, my exposure to poetry had been confined to the dead white male poets I'd encountered in my college textbooks, and most of their work hadn't resonated with me. I'd arrived at the workshop believing I had a poetic tin ear, but on that twilight evening, as Georgella began to read, her voice carried across the lawn, and I felt something shift. It was the first time I'd heard poetry about my place, my Appalachia. In the midst of reading her poem Salvation, Georgella broke into song, 2 lines from the folk ballad Pretty Sarah, weaving a melody from the region's past into the present day poem, offering her listeners both roots and wings.
Wow.
May,
That's
may I
I
say,
was gonna say, keep going. That is gorgeous. And I saw a lot of people getting caught up on that.
just
may I say
beautiful.
something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that okay? Can you write about me, Patricia? We can just, I can just hang out with, oh my, that was stunning. Oh,
Well,
yeah,
thank you.
listen, if I ever need a memoir written or anything, I'm coming to you.
Well, thank you.
That was amazing.
This
Gosh.
collection is full of just wonderful writing. It's called Step into the Circle, Writers in Modern Appalachia. And it came out during COVID. It was published by Blair, and I don't think it got the credentials that it should have. It didn't get
Well,
noticed like it should have.
you know what we're known for? We're known for giving a big old Zoom celebration for books like that. So if you want to be a contact for that and reach out to a couple of the other writers, we would love to host you, have
Sure.
you read that
Oh,
more
like
of
a
that
linked
essay.
COVID reading. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Well,
bet-
But, you
as I
know,
say, 35 years as a journalist and first novel. So don't ever
congratulations.
give up, you know? It's
Yeah.
yeah. So
Also, a friend requested you, Patricia, just so you know.
okay.
I enjoy stalking people. No.
We call that personal research, John.
It's
Yeah.
a
No, that was
harmless
gorgeous.
hobby.
And you hit something that I wanted to come back to, because I think that is a gift that some writers really bring. And that was that she started talking about your place, and touched you and made it all seem possible.
Mhm.
And I think that is one of the one of the gifts that writers bring, is to speak a story that someone goes, oh, that's my story too. How amazing is that?
Mm.
To see and hear yourself.
Well, as most of you know, Georgella is just an amazing person all the way around. A wonderful poet, but also an amazing human being.
How do you
And
spell her
poet,
name?
Georgella, it's George, and then Ella, Ella, and then Lyon, Lyon. And she was, for a time, Poet Laureate of Kentucky, but she's known primarily as a children's author. Poet and a children's author. And she wrote a poem called Where I'm From that has been used now literally all over the world. And this essay goes on to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that poem is life-changing as a framework for so many, young students and people. It's amazing how that poem has reached everywhere.
Yeah, she said it's been used in refugee camps in Sudan. I mean, it's literally gone all around the world. So it's a pretty amazing
Well, it
piece
makes
of
me
work.
think of the importance of naming and claiming, and of telling our story, where we're from, what are the things that are important to my family and myself. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And Felicia, thank you. That was a wonderful reading. And I'm here because of Felicia, I wouldn't have known about this otherwise. So
Yeah, I'm so glad you came, Pat. Yeah,
thank you.
and
Thanks
all
for
of you. Yeah.
You're
Thanks
always
for not
welcome to
running the
come back.
journalist out of the tribe here. I appreciate it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we're trying to bring you in closer. So, if you do think that doing some kind of celebration for that book, I'd be more than open to do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I expect Amy would love for more people to get it in hand, and certainly for Blair to have, like I say, it hit right at COVID, and so many books just didn't get the
Which
airplay.
is why we started this, so that books at
Right,
least,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we've been doing it since March 13th of 2020. That was
Oh,
the first
okay.
time that I got on Zoom and said, we're gonna celebrate a book that would go between, it was Jacinta White, poet out of North Carolina. So, thank y'all so very much. Yes, jump in, Regina.
Oh no, I just wanted to ask Patricia, in that book, are there any is there any talk about Appalachian healing practices?
No, it's specifically just some of the writers from the region.
From the region, okay.
From Appalachia. But there are people at the Heinemann Settlement School, I'm trying to think of the man's name, who does do healing practices.
Right.
And yeah, so I mean, you probably, I cannot remember his name. So if you haven't been to the Appalachian Writers Workshop, I would encourage every single one of you to go, because they always have poetry workshops. It's just a fabulous gathering, and I've been going as often as I can since, like I say, 1983. Oh, and now one thing I should tell you, they have, it's called Ironwood, and it's for high school writers. And I would have killed to have been able to go someplace like that to find other people from the region who cared about writing like I did as a teen and had nobody, So if you know of any young writers who maybe, a lot of writers when they're young don't feel like they fit in, because they're thinking in ways that most teens don't. And Ironwood is a great place for them to find other people like themselves. So,
Good to know.
yeah.
See, and Felicia, I'm not surprised y'all are friends. You both have the inclination of, can I inform you and bring you in and tell you other options and resources? See, I love people like that. I do. It's a beautiful thing. Thank y'all for being such great company this Thursday, and it's been wonderful to see y'all.
Thank
You're
you
Hope
so
to
so
see you
much
next week.
grateful,
for
Rika.
bringing us
You are
together.
wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Felicia. Be well.